Hello everybody, welcome back to the shop. We are working on the Patton Brothers today. I'm going to be pouring the very last bearing that I need to pour, and that's the big end rod bearing, just half of it. And it's a tricky one, I think. I was really not looking forward to the crosshead, but I think this one's a little bit trickier. But anyway, you can see I have a interesting setup here, and I'll show you what I'm thinking. My rear cap is still good, so I'm using that as a basically as a support and alignment tool for the other half, which is right here. And I have it supported with this block of wood and a hydraulic jack and a piece of wood across the two flywheels there. And I also have these spacers that I made. They're a 1/4 inch thick spacers, basically a shim, but just one thick shim. And I'll be using these to give the bearing the proper shim clearance when I'm pouring, because this will be a lot better than a whole bunch of thin shims. And then later I can either use this as my shim, or I can remove these and use my previously made thinner shims and just stack them up to whatever turns out to be a good amount of shims. And also these shims are a little different than the other ones I made, because the edge of the shim goes right to the surface of the crankshaft and also right to either side. And the reason for that is that it's half shim, of course, but it's also going to be kind of a dam to prevent the Babbitt from flowing onto the other side here. So my plan is to set this up pretty much as it is, as you see it, make sure everything is level and nicely aligned, make sure this cap isn't rotated too much this way or that way, put those shims on, and then I'll take my oxyacetylene torch and soot the bearing with acetylene soot. And I might actually put a little bit of damming around the very edge of these shims just to prevent Babbitt flow to the other side. I'm not sure if I'll do that, but I might, and I'll soot it. And then I'll slide on the other bearing here, the other bearing cap, half. Now you see I wrote 040 on it. This was machined because it was slightly curved, as I mentioned in a previous video, and he took off about 40 thousandths to make it flat. So I don't think it really matters, but I made a shim, and this is like 32 thousandths. So I'm going to put this on here as well. I don't think it's necessary, but I don't see any harm in doing it because there is plenty of adjustment on the piston rod. Then, once the crank is sooted, I'll slide that on as you see it, keeping these bolts recessed a little bit. And then I'll drop this connecting rod down. I have pushed the piston about as forward as it will go before I risk the rings popping out from the bore. And I have this supported with my little screw jack that I made, and it'll just make it easier so I don't have to have 3 or 4 hands to do this. And then I'll run these bolts all the way through after I install that shim in between there. And once I run the bolts through, I'll put nuts on the backside and tighten them down. And what that'll do is pull everything together, of course, and it'll pull the piston and piston rod and connecting rod tight together. And the reason I have this piston rod forward, of course, is so I can swing the connecting rod up and down without the corner interfering. So when I tighten the bolts, it'll just pull it back into place. And then that will be that. Oh, of course I have to dam it. I have to put damming compound around the corners and everything. And I'll be ready to pour. I'll pour through this slot up here. This is the slot for the oil to drip down. There's a little piece of sheet metal that comes out there and licks oil off the center oiler. Of course that's removed now, and I'll be pouring Babbitt through there. And that's the general setup. Of course, this is just a mock setup just to make sure everything works. I'll take this whole setup apart and I'm going to clean the hell out of everything. This is still pretty oily and dirty, so I'm going to make sure all this is nice and clean, especially the edge here where I'm going to be sticking my damming material. Now, that's an important consideration because if you guys remember, my damming failed here, even though I wasn't filling it very deep. Now, the deeper you go, it's just like, you know, diving underwater or anything. The deeper you go, the more pressure you're going to be under. That's the same goes for Babbitt, because it's a liquid when it's molten, and the deeper of a pour you have, the more pressure the damming is going to be under. So since this is very tall, that's maybe 6 inches or so from top to bottom, the bottom part of the damming is going to be under a lot of pressure, and you're going to have a lot of damming to hold it all back. What I think I might try is a smokestack member suggested I take a string of rawhide or leather shoelace and give it a wrap or two right in the gap there. And even though that's not going to make a perfect seal, it's sturdy, it's not going to fail. So I think I like that idea. I think I'm going to do that myself. And then of course over that you have to put regular clay damming. And I'm not going to use that plumber's putty. I am not really a fan of it. I did buy some official damming putty from Roto Metals, which is where I bought my Babbitt. I should have bought a little more. I bought 1 pound. I think 2 pounds would be better for this job. Maybe I'll buy more, or I'll just use something else. I think I might try a mixture of flour and water, because I think that'll make a nice sticky paste that'll stick really well, because I had a problem with the other stuff not sticking very well. That was the biggest problem. So that's about it, everybody. Just a bunch of talking today, really, but I wanted to get that out of the way before I do even more talking and running around while I'm pouring the bearing. So stay tuned. Possibly this weekend I will get to it, so you might have another video coming up soon. And if not, it will be coming down soon enough anyway, because I really want to get this engine done and running and up to the Zagray farm for display. So thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned for more. Make sure to leave a comment and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.